Hey everybody, I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is WiseGirl. The holidays are upon us, and I just wanted to shout out to you a little bit about what that means for you. Sometimes people get together with family they haven't seen in a while, and it can be really great and enjoyable. And sometimes it's a really hard time of year, especially if there have been any kind of fissures in the family, any kind of betrayals. Folks feel as though there are things that have been said or done that have not been forgiven, that there are still resentments, and sometimes there's just not a lot of processing that's gone on, a lot of deep understanding that we hope for. I was having dinner with a friend of mine the other day, and she was saying that her brother had passed away, and that this year at Thanksgiving they had an opportunity to all get together as a family for the first time. She had a large family, and that it was so nice because in some ways it enabled people to put their differences aside and just recognize that coming together as a family was really important to them at a certain level, and that in many ways they had forgotten why they had had all these little ruptures and whatnot in the past. In the event that that's not your family, because clearly experiencing something as grave as a death isn't something that I would wish upon anyone, to bring people closer together, although certainly things in life do happen that can have another side of it, not just that immediate side of deep loss and pain. I also would invite you to consider this when we are in a situation where we're with folks that somehow know how to push our buttons, or we feel as though we're kind of somehow a puppet on a string, whereas normally outside of that environment we are engaged in our everyday lives with a high degree of agency and choice and self-direction, and often feel much more empowered, that somehow oftentimes we revert back to a smaller sense of ourselves, and we can operate from a place that is much more a vulnerable place, a more childhood place, a younger part of ourselves that probably didn't get all of what it needed when it was younger from its caregivers and the folks that were around at the time, often whom are family that you may see over the holidays, and that there's still that part that wants and longs for that. And so when you see some of these folks and you haven't seen them in a while, sometimes that gets pricked a little bit, and you want to either get some kind of recognition or get something from that situation or that person that never was there and may never be there. And so sometimes little things at the dinner table can cause us to scratch our head and say, they're still like that, or they're so selfish, or whatever it is. So what I'm inviting you to consider is see if there isn't a way that the way that we've been conditioned to survive that kind of what we felt was ill attunement or neglect or some kind of lack of positive treatment that we feel as though we should have received when we were younger. See if there isn't a way to look at our conditioned response to that, not from the place of our ego or our personality or our constructed self, which we often take to be who we are. In my case, it could be I'm a journalist, I'm a New Yorker, I don't know what, I'm a meditator, whatever it is that we identify with as our thing, that we instead pull away from that and drop down into something much more real, much more eternal, and much more spacious. And you can call that whatever you want. You can call that energy. You can call it, if you're a physicist or a nuclear physicist or an astrophysicist, you can call it energy or stardust or whatever. We're all out of the Big Bang here, frankly, each in human form on this life for 50 or 100 years or whatever it is. But, if we can't break away from our conditioning and drop down into that deeper place of the timeless, that highest sense of self, that knowing place that is awareness and that is consciousness, that makes room for responsiveness and not reactivity. And then if we can do that and find that place deep within us, and we can connect to that place that is in the other person with whom we have difficulty, and not have our conditioning respond to their conditioning when there's some kind of a little trigger going on. See if that whole thing, which is if you do yoga, oftentimes you'll, at the end of a practice, say namaste or namaste. You will basically say, I see the light in you. And what that basically means is just, I see that underneath it all, you're doing the best that you can, right, in terms of conditioning, but that underneath it all, we all are sort of made out of the same stuff, and we're connected in a certain way. And that it's out of that reactivity and out of that conditioning that we get into trouble. Meaning that it's very easy to get mad at actions, but it's actually not all that hard to just love the energy that is in someone deep within themselves, that consciousness, that true awareness, because you possess it too. So it's something that we all share and that we all have in common. You know, in 12-step programs like AA, they say, hurt people, or they say, another slogan is, if they knew better, they would do better. And it's not so much to let people off the hook, because forgiveness practice and letting go of resentments and betrayals that we felt is a big deal. It's a big process. It never gives people permission to have mistreated us. It never gives people permission to repeat what it is that they did that was offensive to us. And depending on what stage you're at in being able to actually forgive, you can sort of set your compass toward, I intend to forgive this person. I am in the process of forgiving this person. I'm in the process of letting go of this hurt. And remind yourself of that. Come from that inner place, that deeper energy, that larger awareness and that larger consciousness, and see if we can't then find a little bit of commonality with even the people who we feel still trigger us and offend us and have pricked us and perhaps may have not treated us all that well in the past, in our childhood, and that now we have to break bread with and sort of find a new way to commune with them. So I would invite you to just consider that if we can not so much meet people who've triggered us with our conditioning meeting their conditioning, but dropping down into that deeper place of having more of our inner nobility, our inner dignity, our source energy, our deeper awareness, our deeper consciousness, that place in you that it's sort of indescribable, but you know it's there. It's your highest self when you are beaming at your newborn, or, making love, or the idea of just enjoying a beautiful sunset or sky or vista or the ocean. It's that deeper sense of not just being caught up in your own movie, in your own story, but being able to see a little bit beyond that and be willing to come from that place and not just get so pricked by some stuff that may have happened in the past, but is no longer in the past. And so in this moment, in the present moment, how can we respond from that deeper place in a way that brings us more well-being and more happiness today, which is, in this moment, all we have. Thanks.